Hey, I wanted to talk about a great Who song, Love Ain't for Keepin', but probably not the version that you're used to listening to. Who's Next has the official recording of that song. It's an acoustic number. Pete plays an acoustic rhythm track, and he does an acoustic soloing on top of that. But there's an alternate version that wasn't released on Who's Next or even on some of the re-releases of Who's Next. It appeared on Odds and Sods, and it's got Pete playing electric rhythm guitar, and the soloing is done by the great Leslie West. If you haven't heard that version before, you really should check it out if you're a Who fan. The Who often complained their frustration that they couldn't get their raw live sound captured on their recorded studio albums, but I think this song really does come closest to any of their recorded albums of capturing that raw live sound. The song itself is incredibly fast-paced. If you're listening to trying to set your metronome, it's probably somewhere between 150 and 160. I'm going to play it at a much slower pace so you can just see what's going on. First go through the chords and the chord structure that Pete uses, then we'll go through some of the licks that Leslie West uses. All right. The basic chords. We're going to use a G, D, D sus2, which essentially is just the D letting the E ring, and then the A, C, back to A. Now, before we go through the actual progression, it's important to keep in mind that Pete likes to, one of the hallmarks of Pete's playing is so-called power chords, but not just in the bar-shaped position, but also in the open position. And what that means is, we'll call them, say, G5 or A5. He's leaving out the third. He doesn't like the way the three rings and the kind of harmonics it gives, especially when you've got things at full volume with distortion blaring. So he leaves out the three. So when you're playing the G, you're going to be playing the 1 and the 5. And the way to fret that is, get the G with your thumb, and then just use that to mute the 5th string. So you're going to be leaving out the B, and then you want the D and the G on those 2 strings. So this is the way you get a G5 in there. Now often he will do the same thing for the D and leave out the third, which would be to leave out the F sharp. But in this song he's going to use the full D so that he can contrast that, the full D with the F sharp, with the D sus2, the open. And it is something that he often uses, the full D, so that he can do often a sus4 is one of his preferred uses of the D. This time we're going to go to D sus2, which is substituting the 3 with the second, that is, instead of the F sharp, the second of the scale in the D, which would be the E. Right. Now for the A, here we do definitely get an A5. So the 1 and the 5 of the A chord is the A and the E. What gets left out is the C sharp. And as we'll see, by leaving out that C sharp, it's going to make soloing much easier. Now the way this song works is, got 2 verses. I'll say the lines and then show you the rhythm so that you don't have to hear me sing. So we got, laying on my back in the newly mown grass. Rain is coming down, but I know the clouds will pass. You bring me tea, say the babe's a-sleepin'. Lay down, my darling. Love ain't for keepin'. right, now, extra little bit that goes on there after the love ain't for keeping. Here we get one of the moves that Pete really likes. The A, then using the G. In fact, that's the way the song actually starts, is with the G open, then we've got those two verses, then we go through that progression again, this time with no singing while the lead happens. When he gets to the C, the G, he does come back in with the vocals. Then we get an ending lick that brings the song to an end, and we'll go through that lick. Then there's a brief pause, then a drum solo, and it starts again. And there we get one pass through the full verse, including the... But then the rest of the song, and this is basically around the 1:40 mark, the rest of the song, another minute and a half, is just Pete using the A, G, D. So he's using the A, and then that little hammer on with the G, and then the full G to D. And he varies the rhythm, especially towards the end when he starts singing as well. And actually that's another difference between this version and the one on Who's Next, is Pete's actually doing the singing, not Roger. And after we get really about a minute and a half of the A, G, and D business, then we finally get a return to the ends on the A, and then we're going to get that same lick that ended the first part. We're going to get it ending the final part of the song. And the way that's going to go, we'll come back to it. Now when it comes to the lead or the soloing part that Leslie West is doing, he's going to be doing some riffs throughout the verses, as well as a separate lead section in the first half of the song, and then after the song comes back, after the little drum solo, when Pete's going through that A, G, and D, really an extended solo, he's going to make a number of moves. He's going to repeat those a couple of times. So there are a number of licks. If you learn, you can apply them again and again. One thing that makes things easier is he replicates some of the licks he does down low in the open position, 12 frets higher. Now, all of the soloing that he does is using the full G major scale. It's very easy, I think, when you're playing a lot of rock guitar, and to slip into the habit of just using pentatonics, be they the major pentatonic or the minor pentatonic. But this song really does make use of the full G scale. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. A lot of work is going to be done using the E. That's going to be actually one that we're going to see again and again at various places on the neck, is that E used. That's something that a lot of guitarists do make use of. That's the 6 in the scale. People often talk about the 1, the 4, and the 5 in rock music, but the 6 is maybe the hidden element. And people also talk about the 7th and the flattened 7th, as that determines whether you're using a major seventh chord or dominant seventh, but the sixth is really quite important. And this song definitely makes heavy use of the sixth. In this case, it's the E. So let me go through some of the riffs that he uses, again at a much slower pace, so that you can have a chance of understanding what he's doing when you listen to the actual recording. If you don't own it, there are a couple of versions of it posted on YouTube. Look for the electric version of Love Ain't For Keepin'. Now, one of the moves that is going to be used both on its own and in combination with other riffs is going to be really a pull down from a C to the B to the A. And you can do it by bending the B up to a C and then bringing in the F sharp here. Or you can just do a full pull off from the C. Now remember, I mentioned before the significance of Pete using an A5, leaving out the C sharp. Well, the advantage of that is, because he never hits the C sharp, you can be free to use the C that's in the G major scale, and you never have to worry about the soloing you're doing conflicting with the chords. And that really means you don't have to worry about what the chord changes are, and you could just be free to solo, making use of whatever notes you want in the G major scale, because none of the chords that are used are going to have notes that go outside of the G major. The notes in the C scale are all in the G major scale. The D sus2, again, all in the G major scale. And crucially, that A5, by leaving out the C sharp, we don't have to worry about its clashing. And that makes the soloing that you're going to do much easier. All right, so we've got that move, or something he throws in there as well. Another way to make use of it up at the lower end is so bend it up, then catch that E that I mentioned that we're going to use. Also, bending that B up to the C and then hooking the A. And essentially that's what's going on in that lick that we had said closes the song. And that lick is really just bending the B up, then catching that A, E, then do some pull-offs. So C, B, A, then we got F sharp to E, C, B, A, pause, again a little bit more quickly. This is the way both parts of the song end. Now when he moves up high, he's really just going to move a full 12 frets up. So we're going to have our C, our B, and our A. Or, as a different way of doing it, so we're going to make use of really that part of the G major scale. Bending the C this time all the way up. Later we get he's moving all the way up to this G, all the way up here at the, what is that? 20th fret. again, we're going to find another way to make use of that E, is just doing some bending on the B and the E up here. So using the G, F sharp to the A. All right. And as I mentioned, one of the things that Wes does is he moves back and forth between the low position and the high position. Here's an example. Use your E, bend it all the way up. And move back and forth between the low versions of some of those riffs and the high versions. And the little lick that I was doing before was bending that C up. So we got our A, G, F sharp. Where we've got again our E. This time we're using E and our C and our A for a little three-way trill. And that goes on for really about a minute and a half. And then finally, as I said, we get a return of lay down, my darling, love ain't for keeping. All right, it's a great song to listen to. Hope that was of some use as you try to pick out some of the fast-paced stuff that's going on. All right, take it easy.